My favorite part of the Lord of the Rings movies is a little subtle. It is right at the beginning of the Two Towers, in the first 30 minutes. We smash cut from Merry and Pippin's ordeal with the orcs to Aragorn, who is lying on the ground with his ear to the earth. We can hear what he hears, the quickening of orcish footsteps. He takes off, trailing them, followed by his loyal companions. This is one of the most iconic moments of the Ranger of the North for me. Aragorn's incredible capability, his dedication, his diverse skill set is what made him a quite understandable fixation for a young Miles. And when I started playing D&D, that obsession transferred over to the Ranger, which had everything that Aragorn had and allowed me to live out this fantasy that I had been nurturing. Now, the Ranger has had a rough 5th edition, especially in the court of public opinion, and it's looking like we'll have a rough coming edition as well, especially if you listen to one of D&D Short's latest videos. And while I hear the frustration and the anger with the Ranger, I do think that the problem lies less with the Ranger's design decisions and much more with the way that people run Dungeons and Dragons, which very often undercuts and sidesteps the Ranger's strong points and some of the most important power fantasies of the Ranger. So, as a Ranger stan from way back, this is how to make your Ranger's day according to J.R.R. Tolkien. So what is the problem? And now this video is not going to really be about the mechanics of the Ranger. It's going to be much more about fulfilling the ask that a player is making when they say, I want to play a Ranger in your game. We're primarily going to focus on the core Ranger. We're going to ignore any subclasses. And I should mention, however, that Tasha's adjustments to the Ranger are great, but they take away from a bunch of the flavor that the core rules gave the Ranger. Natural Explorer and Favored Enemy. Now, my advice for this is pretty simple. Give the Ranger all of the above. The fun of getting to encounter and best your favorite enemy and operate in your home terrain is too circumstantial to make it overpowered, even if you add these additional, much more mechanical changes that Tasha gives you. Don't replace Natural Enemy and Favored Enemy with Deft Explorer and Favored Foe. Just give them both. Aragorn would be able to do both, and your Ranger should be able to as well. So let's get into it. To start, Overland Travel is super important to the Ranger. Let them go places. Let them range, move, give them destinations that are far away, and let your Ranger guide their party. Give them maps and multiple options for passage. Are you going to go over the mountain pass, or are you going to travel the valley? Give the Ranger extra special information about which way might mean what obstacles and problems. Make it clear how much your Ranger knows and ask them how they know. Help them build their awesome story. We gloss over travel in D&D very often because it can seem boring. I mean, heck, it can be boring. I urge you to not do this and to find ways to make it exciting by letting the land tell a story for you. And let your Ranger be the conduit for that tale. I mean, as soon as Aragorn enters Rohan, he knows that something is wrong.
Rohan, home of the Host Lords. There's something strange at work here. Some evil gives speed to these creatures, sets its will against us.
This is amazing. Can you imagine your player arriving somewhere and you being like, oh, you feel this and this and this about the world around you, and that tells you X, Y, and Z. It's going to make them feel like they're the Ranger of their dreams. And it neatly leads into my next point, the sixth sense that Rangers have, this primeval awareness, which is one of the least used and most incredible features in the Ranger's toolkit. Let me be clear. It's not just a tool for the Ranger. It's also a tool for you. Primeval Awareness can be an incredibly useful tool to inform your players of little hints and clues that you need to make them nervous, to make them curious, anxious, or excited to drive the game and the story forward. Unfortunately, in the rules, it is paywalled behind taking minutes of time and spending a spell slot. Boring. It's also not described nearly as well as other things in the player's handbook. The Ranger really got the short end of the stick when it came to narrative contributions from the designers. Now, to me, Primeval Awareness isn't actually anything magical. It's the incredible near magic of tracking, an art which is still practiced by those in the wilder parts of the world. And having witnessed some of it myself, I can tell you it is incredible. Now, use your imagination when you describe to your ranger how this works. What tips off your ranger to the strangeness of the world around them that lets them know what's in the area? The list of everything that they can sense is aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead. Now, all of these are alien to the world of Faerun and exist in similar roles for most fantasy worlds. Is there a strange smell on the wind? Is the dirt under the grass the wrong color? Is the humidity wrong for this type of year? Is there an abundance of a particular kind of plant or animal, a scarcity of one? The ranger uses the evidence of their senses to detect things that no one else can. Detect magic won't help you know if there's a dragon in the area before you've spoken to anyone or really examined it, but the ranger should know. So give your ranger the information sooner rather than later. Do not wait for them to say, "Oh, I have Primeval Awareness," because they're not going to. Maybe ask them if they're willing to give up a spell slot for some special information, or just take the spell slot from them after you give them this super useful information that, hey, there's a dragon nearby because X, Y, and Z, because the crops are all really, really short. There are only 2 sheep in the field, and there's a slight smell of something burning everywhere. Red dragon. And don't make this a simple binary. Yes, there is dragon here. Yes, there is undead here. Flavor it, color it, help it tell your story. Now, check out my Mothership Warden's Guide video for more sweet advice about how to run your mysteries, but focus on the senses. Focus on the weird differences in the world. Focus on what kind of effects having these creatures in the area might have on the world around them. Remember, they are unnatural. They're going to change the way that nature feels and acts just by being in proximity. And once they know that something is weird, let them track something.
We travel light. Let us hunt some orc.
The hunt is super important to the fantasy of the ranger. Give them something to chase. Make it important. Make it desperate. Give it stakes. Give them clues. Give them evidence of its passing. Let them use their awesome favored foe abilities to track it down. Give them hints about its abilities, its weaknesses, its strength as they move forward so that this hunt becomes a preparation of the combat to come. Now, I love the montage of Aragorn and company trailing the orcs across Rohan. It's iconic. It is deeply formative to me, and I firmly believe that every ranger wants some of this. I love that there's a clear timeline, and there's definite stakes. The orcs have their friends. They have to get them before they do something to the hobbits. And then they notice that the orcs are turning to Isengard. And now we have a timeline. If the orcs reach the walls of Orthanc, they will never be able to retrieve Merry and Pippin. They'll be in the too powerful grasp of Saruman. They're running against time, and suddenly they're racing across land with
3 days and nights pursuit. No food, no rest, no sign of our quarry, but what bare rock can tell.
This is super important, and it leads into our next point. Do not be afraid of using exhaustion. It is the scariest of conditions, in my opinion. But you really should not fear it. Anything that ends with player death just flat out is terrifying. But you need to use it, especially if you have a ranger in the party, because at 10th level, a Deft Explorer Ranger gets the ability to lose 2 levels of exhaustion instead of just 1 when they perform a long rest. I've been terrified of imposing these brutal penalties on my players. They get disadvantage on all skill checks, then they have their speed, then they get disadvantage on attacks and saves and everything basically, and then they half their maximum hit point value. It's like they're really, really punishing by intention. But the ranger loses out on the entire effectiveness of one of its abilities if you don't threaten this. Push them for long marches. Make them work against time and go into battle when they're not at their best. The tension of these moments and the edge of your seat play where you're not sure if you will win or lose will be worth it for the non-rangers. It also gives your travel and transportation and endurance expert a chance to really shine. But in saying this, there's an inherent problem at the base of this that I think I haven't talked about yet, which is as much a player problem as it is a DM problem, and which I find personally to be super central to the theme and fantasy of the Ranger. You need to give your Ranger someone to protect. And conversely, Rangers out there, don't let your mysterious loner archetype steal the fun of that. Aragorn begins harsh. All cloaks and pipes and you should be afraid.
Are you frightened?
Yes.
Not nearly frightened enough. I know what hunts you.
And no, you can't have second breakfast.
What about elevensies? Luncheon? Afternoon tea?
But all of that is just a ruse. It's a mask. The character's strength, and the one that I think that is incredibly important to the Ranger's archetype, is that he cares so much. He is a protector and a defender of the weak and of nature first and foremost. His rough exterior is just there to hide how much of a softie he actually is. Here is my message to Ranger players. You can be gruff, you can be standoffish, you can be edgy, but let that be set dressing. When it counts, you have to be there for those around you. Now, I would love to do a whole video on vulnerability and the myth of cool in American culture and how that applies to this game and the difficulty of role-playing. But another time. For now, I'll just remind you of the moment when Aragorn thinks that he's lost Merry and Pippin. It's beautiful. It's emotional. It's agonizing. And frankly, it's very cool in my opinion. Maybe that makes me super lame. I don't know. DMs. Give your Rangers soft, squishy hobbits from safe green places to protect. If another player is doing that already, then nurture it by giving them time together to bond. And by threatening the squishy one in ways that the Ranger can help, especially using their favored enemy. Be sure to also give them opportunities to find NPCs to learn to care for.
I made some stew. It isn't much, but it's hot.
Especially from characters who do small kindnesses unbidden. And then threaten them, drive them up a tree, and allow the Ranger to charge in and help, especially if it costs them something.
I would have gone with you to the end. Into the very fires of Mordor.
I know.
So here's the takeaway. Rangers want a couple of things. They want to be a master tracker, they want to be a bit of a know-it-all, and they want to be deadly in combat, especially against a foe that they feel threatens someone that they protect. They are guides, they are protectors, they are caretakers who struggle against the constant pull of the wilderness and the fear of loss. All of these can be achieved with a little thoughtful planning on the DM's part. Utilize the less mechanically specific pieces of the Ranger's class to help tell your story, and the Ranger will remember your game for years to come. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this helped. Please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, hit that little notification bell. I would love to do a video like this for every one of the classes, because I think that there are little unsung details of each class that aren't very easy to cater to as a dungeon master, that take thought and planning and understanding of the mechanics and the narrative storytelling pieces that are implied in the player's handbook, but they don't really tell you how to do any of it, and they don't even tell you that that's what they're asking for. Comment with other ways that we can help the Ranger out, and please vote for which class you would like me to do this for next. Or if you're having a problem satisfying one player class or another, let me know, and I'll try to fit that into my upcoming video schedule. Thanks again for watching. Stay miles away from boredom, and I'll see you next time.